In the late-night laundry, the roar of the conveyor belt mixed with the workers' complaints. However, at this moment, mystery spanning 40 years was about to be unraveled. The special investigation team arrived at the scene. The coroner's preliminary assessment identified the victim as a girl in her 20s. There was a deep cut on her neck that exposed the bone, and her hands were bound with silk. Her delicate skin was covered with various injuries, resembling a cruel masterpiece crafted by the killer. The absence of large bloodstains indicated that the killer had moved the body after the crime. Based on the extent of the body's damage, the coroner estimated she had died 2 days earlier. Officer Taylor noticed that the sheet wrapping the body seemed to be a breakthrough. He immediately inquired with the coroner. The coroner informed him that the sheet originated from a euthanasia hospital. Following this key lead, the special investigation team's leader, Benson, led his team to investigate. The driver responsible for transporting the sheets appeared evasive when he saw the police, trying to deflect with helping a mysterious person with a cart, but panicked under Benson's questioning. It turned out he was secretly meeting his nurse girlfriend in the storage room. The nurse confirmed the driver's story and revealed that the night shift sheets were handled by a logistics employee named Kevin. This taciturn, reclusive man came into the police's sights. After reviewing the surveillance footage, the special investigation team found that Kevin had indeed transported the sheets alone, but in the next moment,
that box, he has to be an old Volvo and only half a New Yorker driving them.
The appearance of a mysterious man suddenly brought a turning point to the case. The investigation team quickly returned to the police station. Benson successfully identified the victim. 23-year-old Laura was an avid environmentalist. She was currently working for an environmental organization located in an old factory. Her colleague George informed the police that Laura had recently broken into the apartment of oil executive Leo. She was collecting his household trash to create a human target for protests, only missing materials for the lips. Benson keenly speculated that the silk used to bind Laura likely came from Leo's home. He and Taylor swiftly headed to investigate based on this lead. When questioned, Leo admitted that the silk was from his wife's room. However, he adamantly claimed that he was attending a charity gala that night, providing an alibi. To verify Leo's testimony, Benson and Taylor reviewed the surveillance footage of Laura breaking into the oil company that night. The footage showed Laura escaping from Leo's house and entering a warehouse. Just then, the mysterious man appeared again. Then Laura was dragged onto an old-fashioned Volvo sedan by a mysterious man and abducted in broad daylight. The captain frowned and remarked that this killer was no novice. At this moment, Tutu's investigation revealed that the suspect vehicle was registered under 64-year-old Thomas. However, Thomas had passed away 9 months ago. Even more bizarrely, Thomas's youngest son, Kevin, was a night shift worker at the euthanasia hospital. When Benson and Taylor found Kevin outside Thomas's house, this middle-aged man turned pale upon seeing the badge and claimed he needed to go inside to get his brother's address, then locked the door behind him. His suspicious behavior raised the alert of the two. Just as Taylor issued a warning to Kevin, an unexpected event occurred. The tense atmosphere descended instantly. Benson quickly notified the guards for backup. Taylor burst through the door, grabbing the fleeing Kevin and throwing him down the stairs. Benson, arriving shortly after, immediately went into a defensive stance. At this moment, a delicate box on the floor caught Benson's attention. Upon opening it, he found neatly arranged bottle cap bracelets that reflected Laura's environmentalist style. However, the other items were completely different from her style. Looking at the box filled with trophies, Benson couldn't help but feel suspicious. Could it be that he was dealing with a serial killer? With this question in mind, Kevin was taken back to the police station, but he remained silent during the interrogation. Just as Benson threatened him with the death penalty, Kevin suddenly trembled and became emotional, yet still refused to disclose information about other victims. At this moment, the captain abruptly entered, suspending their interrogation under the pretext of police brutality and assigning Officer Tutu to take over. In the interrogation room, Tutu listed Kevin's criminal record for embezzlement. He claimed that he had ultimately ended up in prison due to a report from his female superior. Kevin, filled with resentment after being released, unleashed all his pent-up anger on 5 victims when he couldn't find his female superior. However, Kevin, upon hearing this, panicked and insisted that he had reformed and had already faced severe punishment. The only person he had seen after his release was his parole officer, and he even begged Tutu not to send him back to prison. Hearing this, Taylor and Benson were determined to investigate the case. Disregarding the captain's warning as they quickly left, Taylor and Benson learned from the parole officer that Kevin was a timid and weak individual. he couldn't even socialize normally, making it absolutely impossible for him to commit murder. Just then, the parole officer suddenly recalled something unusual. Kevin had recently canceled a home visit, and had seemed unusually anxious about the officer's arrival. Even more perplexing was that the basement in Kevin's house had inexplicably been locked. Receiving this important clue, Taylor and Benson exchanged a knowing glance. After the search warrant was issued, that night, the two entered with the investigation team while Kevin was away. The sight before them was nauseating. A stained mattress, various metal implements, and numerous scratch marks all over the walls. The bloodstains detected in the drain confirmed that this was the hell where Laura was tortured. The deranged killer slashed the victim's throat, then assaulted her, even using bleach to clean the bloodstains from the floor. Based on this solid evidence, Benson and Taylor rushed back to the police station to interrogate Kevin. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Kevin still insisted that he had never killed anyone. At this moment, Tutu hurriedly called the two out of the interrogation room. They had successfully identified the owner of a ring found among the trophies. The victim was named Annie. She had been dragged into an alley by the killer on the street. The killer then stole the victim's ring as a trophy and collected it. Benson and Taylor became excited upon hearing this, because this clue could directly incriminate Kevin. However, Tutu's next statement caused a dramatic turn in the case.
Joan Arliss was raped February 19, 1970.
The two were instantly shocked by Tutu's words. This meant that the true killer could be someone else, or that the two had collaborated in the crime. At this point, the clues had suddenly come to a halt. Meanwhile, Taylor and Benson were engaged in a deep discussion. Since Kevin had no other male relatives, Benson speculated that the true killer could very likely be Kevin's deceased father, Thomas. The captain pointed out that, aside from Laura, the other four victims' cases had occurred 40 years ago, and the DNA on the trophies had degraded. The only breakthrough was to get Kevin to reveal his accomplice. At this point, Kevin's lawyer proposed a deal. To know the truth, they must first drop Kevin's charges. The prosecutor weighed the options and agreed, scheduling the hearing for the next morning. Benson was still sorting through the clues when he suddenly discovered an astonishing coincidence. Laura, the victim in the case, and Annie, the victim from 40 years ago, had attended the same high school as his mother. He found Annie's daughter, Ellie, only to discover that Annie had lost her memory due to Alzheimer's disease. When Benson returned Annie's ring, Ellie was puzzled, saying her mother's wedding ring had never been lost. Faced with Ellie's questioning, Benson revealed the truth. Annie had been assaulted in 1970, and Ellie's birth year coincided with the time of the incident. Ellie felt as if struck by lightning. Her mother's years of coldness and resentment stemmed from the fact that she was the child of the killer. Devastated, Ellie cried as she turned to alcohol. Benson unusually opened up, revealing that his own mother had died from alcoholism due to being assaulted. As they looked at each other, tears in their eyes, Ellie suddenly remembered that they had both participated in a school camping trip years ago. It turned out that their mothers had attended the same school back then. A bold hypothesis began to take shape in Benson's mind. Could Ellie be his half-sister? Was their father the serial killer? From 40 years ago, Taylor's investigation uncovered new leads. Kevin had been long abused and assaulted by his cellmate, Daniel, while in prison. Daniel had disappeared after his release, and was even living under Kevin's identity. The police tracked Kevin's credit card activity and apprehended Daniel at a bar. This sinister-looking man sat with his legs crossed, exuding a challenging smirk. He insisted that the police lacked evidence to convict him, demanding a lawyer be present. Meanwhile, in the interrogation room, Kevin trembled in fear upon seeing Daniel arrive. However, when he learned from Taylor that he would have to share the same cell with this demon, under the immense psychological pressure, Kevin broke down and revealed the whole truth. Kevin stated that the shooting incident was caused by Daniel. He had even been forced to witness the entire murder process. At this moment, Kevin's lawyer pulled out the prison medical records and handed them to the prosecutor for review. He pointed out that Kevin was also a victim in this case. According to the records, Daniel not only beat Kevin in prison but also crazily assaulted him. Moreover, after his release, he controlled Kevin and took over everything he had. Upon hearing this, the prosecutor suddenly sensed something was wrong, and terminated the conversation before rushing out the door. Taylor immediately chased after him to inquire, but the prosecutor stated that they must withdraw the charges against Daniel. Benson, who overheard their conversation, hurriedly asked for the reason. The prosecutor explained that Daniel, who lived in Kevin's house, had certain privacy rights. Their sudden intrusion during the investigation had violated relevant laws. As a result, the accused Daniel could exploit this loophole to sue the police. If Daniel were released, the consequences would be unimaginable. Benson urgently pressed the prosecutor for a solution. At this moment, Ellie rushed in with her son, Bob. Noticing Ellie's distress, Taylor quickly took Bob away, leaving Benson to talk with her. Ellie revealed that her mother had passed away the night before. Under immense pressure, Ellie sadly admitted that she was unable to care for Bob. She didn't want her son to suffer any harm. Seeing Ellie in such a low state, Benson hurriedly approached to comfort her, hoping she could regain her strength for her son's sake. He also suggested that Ellie seek psychological counseling to alleviate her emotional distress. Just as Ellie finally nodded in agreement, an unexpected event occurred. The released Daniel began to brainwash Bob. Fortunately, Benson arrived just in time to stop him. However, Daniel continued to taunt Benson with his words. Just then,
"Do I look scared, you prick? Vivian, do I? Calm down. Do I look scared? Vivian, stop.
Benson hurriedly pulled the enraged Ellie away. Seeing the killer released before her, Ellie accused Benson of not telling her everything. Ignoring Benson's pleas, Ellie insisted on leaving quickly with her son. Faced with this uncontrollable situation, Benson fell into despair. Benson and Taylor were observing outside Kyle's house. Suddenly, Kyle cautiously returned home. In the next moment, they quickly got out of the car to assess the situation. Kyle excitedly announced that Daniel was dead. Taylor immediately pushed the door open to check. Daniel's body lay starkly on the floor. A blood-stained frying pan was scattered nearby. It was clearly the murder weapon that caused Daniel's death, just as Benson identified Kyle as the killer. Taylor offered a different perspective. Based on the coagulation of the blood, it was inferred that Daniel's time of death was well before Kyle's arrival. Taylor believed that the true killer of Daniel was Ellie. Unable to accept her identity, Ellie sought revenge against him. Benson found it hard to accept all this, and immediately headed to Ellie's house for investigation. However, he discovered that Ellie had already left. With no options left, Benson had to return to the police station. Bob was surprisingly waiting there for a long time. He said that Ellie had dropped him off at the police station and then turned to leave. As for his mother's whereabouts, Bob was equally clueless. He then took out a letter left by his mother and handed it to Benson. As Benson looked at the contents of the letter, he was left stunned. Ellie had entrusted Bob's custody to him, and this bloody mystery spanning 40 years came to a close with Daniel's death. This episode centered around the case of assault and murder. The death of a young girl brought the serial murders from 40 years ago back into public view. This innovative filming technique not only created suspense, but also left a lasting impression on viewers. The investigation process was also filled with dramatic twists, from quickly identifying the killer only to discover that he was unrelated to the 4 cases, to the true culprit surfacing, only to find that he had already been killed. What's even more shocking is that the victim's family member is the mastermind behind the true murder, and she is even the killer's biological daughter. The repeated twists make the intricate plot even more mysterious. The layered narrative structure enriches the film's emotional depth. By exploring ethical issues, the case is elevated to a deep analysis of the nature of humanity. In this episode, the characters become increasingly distinct, especially the protagonist, Benson, when he discovers that the victim experienced the same ordeal as his mother. His professional rationality clashes violently with his emotional trauma. This episode concludes with the conviction of the killer's daughter, yet it does not present a just desserts outcome. It also reminds us that the justice achievable through law, while fair and just to some extent, protects the legal rights of the people. However, the justice pursued by law is always limited. It is not flawless but rather a relative balance. Despite this, it remains an important means of upholding social justice. If you enjoy my channel, please like and subscribe.